Hey, welcome to a double feature. This week we've been looking at Guy Ritchie's version of Sherlock Holmes, and now it's the time of the week where we get to come together and actually discuss what we've been writing about and thinking about for the rest of the week. So, without further ado, here is my first question directed at you, Thane. All right. So in your write-up you talked about how there's several times in the movie that you weren't sure whether or not Sherlock Holmes was sane or not, whether he was in control of his faculties or not. Could you point to a part of the movie that you thought that, okay, now Holmes is definitely one way or the other. He's could be very, very insane at this point in time, and why do you think Ritchie handled Holmes in that way?
And there were two moments in the film. I'll just refer to one that really stood out to me. The part when he's using musical theory to train these little bugs. I can't remember the name of the bug now, but anyways, and Watson's like, you do know what you're drinking is meant for eye surgery, and he's like, they have this small banter, and then Watson's like, how did you get him in there? Oh, I lured him individually. I've been at this for 6 hours. That moment to me really was like, okay, he has lost it. He's insane. I mean, this is the price of brilliance. And I think that's almost Guy Ritchie's point, is that when you have these amazing gifts like that, where details are just slap you in the face and you see everything, and that's almost like and it's referenced in the second film, that this is my curse, that I see everything. I think that's Guy Ritchie's point, is these gifts have a price, and that price, I think, for Sherlock Holmes is insanity.
Well, I think that's interesting because in the current BBC version of Sherlock Holmes with heartthrob Benedict Cumberbatch in the title role, they firmly place him on the autism spectrum, and they really they don't try to hide the fact that he's autistic. He sees those type of things. Would you say Ritchie's Holmes is on that level of autistic, or is he just unhinged somewhere?
Yeah, I think he's more unhinged, because for a majority of the film, he is engaged with Watson, and he's engaged in solving this mystery. Mm-hmm. There's only 2 or 3 moments in the film where I felt like, okay, this is the side of Holmes that we don't see a lot, but it's there. Maybe it's a demon he's battling with. Maybe it's a subtle undertone of some larger issue. I don't know, but I don't think Guy Ritchie's focus is to be like, this man's insane, he's crazy. I think that's more of a side detail that we get to look into every now and again as the story unfolds.
Well, and we all know there's a lot of demons happening in this film.
That's true, yes. Yeah, and that's another thing. There were a lot of demons from the original text that were cut out, like drug usage and things like that didn't make it. So I'm really intrigued by this idea that you talk about, where there's this rational side to the story and there's this irrational side to the story.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that's so interesting because, I obviously recognized it was there, but obviously it didn't stick out to me as much as it did to you. This idea that Sherlock Holmes doesn't believe in the irrational. Mm-hmm. There's no space in his life for it. His whole life is based on facts and details. Interestingly enough, there is a part in the movie where Watson says, I've seen things I don't understand. I've had a friend in the army who predicted the time of his death, blah, blah, blah. Do you think that Watson is a weak character in comparison to Sherlock Holmes because he has room for skepticism in his life? Or do you think that makes him a good match for Sherlock Holmes?
Well, I think that Watson is far from a weak character. If for no other reason, he seems to be the only one out of the two who is capable of having a stable relationship. I mean, in all honesty, he is the reason why Sherlock and Watson are a team. If it was up to just Sherlock would be off doing whatever he wants by himself and probably going even more off the deep end. Watson more or less grounds him in reality, because reality is messy. It is relationships.
Right.
And take, for example, when Watson finally brings Sherlock to meet his fiancée, and the fiancée insists that Sherlock analyze her, Watson realizes immediately this is a bad idea, because Sherlock Holmes has no social boundaries at all. He'll just keep going and going and going and going and going and say the most inappropriate things imaginable. And Watson knows this, and I think in that realm, Watson is leaps and bounds smarter than Sherlock Holmes, because Sherlock Holmes does not understand interpersonal connections. The other great example I have is when he's in the carriage ride after the constable just rescued him from the hotel, and the constable makes the joke that his wife is a chambermaid, and Holmes has no idea how to handle that, and he just sort of becomes mortified of what he said, until the guard can say, "No, it was a joke. It was a joke." But even then, Holmes doesn't know how to respond to that. He's like, "Oh, gotcha."
I like your commentary a lot on this irrational versus the rational, and I mean I agree with you that even though Watson does believe in the irrational, and you even make the point of the black crow, that's something that's never explained. It's implied, it's there, no explanation on it. It could be a coincidence, could be not, who knows? But regardless, I think I like that theme that Guy Ritchie presents to us, that these two men really need each other more than perhaps they believe they need each other.
Yeah,
and I think it makes for just a great relationship and obviously a great story.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is one of the strengths of Guy Ritchie's direction of this, that traditionally Watson has always been second tier to Holmes, and he's just the cataloger of Holmes's exploits. But in this one, they really, really play off of each other, and I happen to really like what Ritchie did with that.
No, I agreed. I really like that they're very much equals in this film, and you're right. Before he's been played as sort of a lesser, weaker man, but in this one they are very much on the same playing field with each other. What do you think that Guy Ritchie is trying to say between Watson's relationship with his fiancée and Holmes's relationship with Irene Adler?
Okay, well, I don't necessarily know what Ritchie would probably say about that, just because Watson's fiancée doesn't get a whole lot of screen time. I can see that the relationship between Holmes and Adler is completely built on manipulation. They're each trying to manipulate one another. She's being the puppet of Moriarty to manipulate Holmes's feelings so he's not seeing what's right in front of him. At the same time, he's trying to more or less manipulate her to get her to play the part that he needs her to play in uncovering these plots. Whereas really what we get from Watson and his relationship is basically what Watson says. The fiancée is upfront with him. She's already told him all of her past, how she was engaged at one point and all of this stuff. And so it's a lot more open, and he knows it, he accepts it, but beyond that, I couldn't really say.
I found it very interesting that at the very end of the film, Holmes steals the Maharaji's missing diamond from Irene Adler and gives it to Watson to give to his fiancée.
Yeah.
Now, that gesture could simply mean I am trying to make recompense for all the times I was trying to break you two apart, whatever. But I think, here's where I get really excited.
Okay.
I thought, what if that is the gesture of, I wish I had the relationship you had. I wish that Irene Adler could be open with me. I wish I could be open with her. We can't be, like he says, or Irene's like, why are you always so suspicious? And he's like, should I answer chronologically or alphabetically? They're just always on edge around each other. I think by the end of the film, Holmes realizes that Watson and his fiancée have something very special, this trust, this openness that he perhaps wants, maybe even longs for, and that's sort of his gesture of living vicariously through Watson, perhaps? I don't know.
Yeah, I could see that. Or this is just his lack of social boundaries coming in, where he thinks it's a really good idea to give a priceless stolen gem to his best friend to give to the fiancée.
Or that. I suppose either option. But I saw that and I was like, that's interesting. I wonder if that was some kind of statement. And so I guess I like to think it was, but who knows?
Well, we can interpret the world however we wish it to be interpreted. Nobody's stopping us. All right, so that is our discussion for Sherlock Holmes. Tell us what you think in the comments. Did you like the movie? What points did you find interesting? And should we, more to the point, ever cover the sequel, Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows? So let us know in the comments below. Also follow us at Facebook, Twitter, and on Google+, and our website. You can find links to all of these places down in the comments below. And then stop by our YouTube channel tomorrow to see what film we're going to be looking at for the coming week, or films. And as always, please subscribe. We'll see you later.
Bye, guys.